The anniversary that wasn't. The restaurant looked exactly as Zara remembered it. Soft amber lighting casting warm shadows across white tablecloths. The faint smell of jasmine incense mixing with grilled seafood. And that same corner booth where Farhan had asked her to be his girlfriend 3 years ago. She had specifically requested it when making the reservation, hoping the nostalgia might remind him of who they used to be. Zara smoothed down her emerald dress. The one Farhan once said made her eyes look like they held entire galaxies. Tonight, though, he hadn't even noticed she was wearing it. He'd barely looked at her since they sat down. "This place hasn't changed at all," she said softly, tracing the rim of her water glass. "Remember that night? You were so nervous you knocked over the wine." Farhan glanced up from his phone, offering a distracted smile. "Yeah, of course." Classic moment. His fingers continued scrolling, the blue light reflecting off his face. Their waitress appeared then, a young woman with auburn hair pulled into a neat ponytail, her name tag reading Mira. She couldn't have been older than 23 with the kind of fresh, unguarded smile that comes before life teaches you to be careful with your kindness. "Good evening. Can I start you both with something to drink?" Mira asked, her pen poised over her notepad. "I'll have the house red," Zara said. Farhan finally set his phone down. But not to look at Zara. His attention fixed entirely on Mira. His posture straightening in that way Zara recognized too well, the way he used to sit when he wanted to impress her. "What would you recommend?" he asked, his voice dropping into that smooth, playful tone. "You look like someone with good taste." Mira blushed slightly. "Well, the Cabernet is popular, or if you prefer something lighter, I trust your judgment completely." Farhan's smile widened. "Surprise me." Zara felt something cold settle in her chest, but she said nothing. She watched as Mira walked away, noticing how Farhan's eyes followed her across the restaurant floor. "She seems nice," Zara said carefully. "Who? Oh, the waitress? Yeah, sure." Farhan picked up his menu, but Zara could see he wasn't really reading it. His gaze kept drifting toward the bar where Mira was preparing their drinks. When Mira returned with their wine, Farhan transformed again. "That was fast. You must be really good at your job." "Just trying to keep everyone happy," Mira replied with a modest laugh. "Well, you're definitely succeeding." Farhan leaned back in his chair, exuding the casual confidence that had once swept Zara off her feet. "How long have you worked here?" Zara's fingers tightened around her wine glass. This was their anniversary dinner. 3 years, and he was interviewing their waitress like they were on a first date. "About 6 months," Mira answered, professional but clearly flattered by the attention. "Are you ready to order, or do you need a few more minutes?" "Take your time," Farhan said, waving his hand dismissively. "Actually, what's your favorite thing on the menu?" As Mira began describing the chef's special, Zara stopped listening. She looked at Farhan, really looked at him, and saw something she'd been refusing to see for months. The way he leaned forward when Mira spoke. The way his entire face animated with interest he hadn't shown Zara in weeks. The way he seemed to forget Zara was even sitting there. When Mira finally left to put in their order, Farhan immediately pulled out his phone again, a small smile playing at his lips. "The salmon sounds good," Zara said, testing whether he'd been paying attention. "Yeah, whatever you want, babe." He hadn't heard her. He hadn't heard her in a long time. Zara took a slow sip of her wine and made a decision. She wouldn't cry. She wouldn't yell. She wouldn't beg for the attention that should have been freely given. Instead, she would do something far more powerful. She would choose herself. The note that changed everything. The dinner continued like a slow-motion car crash that only Zara could see coming. Every time Mira approached their table, Farhan transformed into a different person, the charming, attentive man Zara used to know, except none of that charm was directed at her anymore. "Is everything tasting all right?" Mira asked during her third check-in, which was at least 2 more than necessary. "Absolutely perfect," Farhan responded, his eyes lingering just a moment too long. "You know you have a great energy. Do you do anything else besides this, like modeling or acting?" Zara watched Mira's cheeks flush pink. The girl was clearly uncomfortable but trying to remain professional. No, just studying business management at the university. Smart and beautiful. That's a rare combination, Farhan said, completely oblivious to, or perhaps ignoring, how Zara's knuckles had gone white around her fork. When Mira excused herself, Zara finally spoke. You're embarrassing yourself. Farhan blinked, as if surprised she was still there. What are you talking about? You've barely looked at me all evening. Do you even remember what I ordered? He shifted in his seat, irritation flickering across his face. Come on, Zara, I'm just being friendly. Don't be so insecure. That word, insecure. He'd been using it a lot lately whenever she pointed out his wandering attention, as if her noticing his disrespect was the problem, not the disrespect itself. Zara set down her fork with deliberate calm. I need to use the restroom. She didn't wait for his response. She walked with steady steps toward the back of the restaurant, her mind crystallizing around a single truth. She deserved better than this. 3 years of loving someone who had stopped seeing her. 3 years of making excuses for behavior that required no explanation. It was simply disrespectful, and she had tolerated it for far too long. In the restroom, Zara pulled out her phone and opened her banking app. She transferred her half of the dinner bill to Farhan's account, then added a note, "For your solo meal." Then she opened her messages and typed one to her best friend Hina. It's over. I'm walking out. Can you pick me up from Lotus Restaurant? Hina's response came immediately. Already in the car. I'm so proud of you. Zara stared at herself in the mirror. Her makeup was still perfect, her dress still beautiful, but her eyes held something new, a quiet determination that felt like strength building from the inside out. When she returned to the table, Farhan was texting someone, smiling at his phone. He didn't look up. I'm going to handle the bill, Zara said calmly. Sure, whatever, Farhan replied, still focused on his screen. Zara caught Mira's eye from across the restaurant and gestured for her to come over. The young waitress approached with her usual friendly smile. Could you bring me the check, please? Zara asked quietly. And I need a pen. Of course, right away. When Mira returned with the leather billfold containing their receipt, Zara opened her wallet and placed enough cash inside to cover the entire meal plus a generous tip. But she didn't close it. Instead, she pulled out a small notepad she always carried for work sketches, tore out a page and began writing in her neat, measured handwriting. Farhan was still absorbed in his phone, occasionally glancing toward the bar where Mira had returned to help another customer. Zara wrote, Farhan, since you spent this dinner paying attention to everyone except the person who's been paying attention to you for 3 years, I think it's time we settle our accounts. I've paid for this meal, my final investment in something that stopped giving returns a long time ago. Consider this your bill for taking my loyalty for granted. I'm done covering the cost of loving someone who's always looking at the next table. Don't call, don't text, don't show up at my apartment. The only thing I want from you now is distance. You're free to chase whatever you think you're missing. I'm free to find someone who knows what he has. Zara. She folded the note carefully and slipped it into the billfold where Farhan would find it. Then she caught Mira's attention again and gestured for her to come back. I need a favor, Zara said quietly, her voice steady despite the emotion churning underneath. In about 5 minutes, can you bring this to him? Tell him I asked you to deliver his final bill. Mira's eyes widened slightly as understanding dawned. She glanced at Farhan, then back at Zara, and something like respect crossed her young face. Of course. I'm really sorry. Don't be sorry, Zara said, her voice gentle but firm. You didn't do anything wrong. Just remember this the next time someone flirts with you while their girlfriend is sitting right there. You're worth more than being someone's distraction. 2. Mira nodded, clutching the billfold, and Zara could see the lessons settling into the younger woman's understanding. Zara stood, smoothed her dress one final time, and picked up her purse. Farhan finally looked up. Where are you going? Home, Zara said simply. Enjoy the rest of your evening. She walked toward the exit without looking back, each step feeling lighter than the last. Through the restaurant's large windows, she could see Hina's car pulling up to the curb right on time. Behind her, she heard Mira's voice. Excuse me, sir? Your companion asked me to give you this. Zara didn't turn around to see Farhan's face when he opened that billfold. She didn't need to. She had spent 3 years watching his expressions, learning to read every micro-emotion, trying to understand what she could do to make him look at her the way he used to. Now, finally, she understood. It wasn't her job to make him see her worth. It was his loss that he didn't. As Zara slid into Hina's car, her best friend took one look at her face and simply reached over to squeeze her hand. "How do you feel?" Hina asked. Zara took a deep breath, and to her surprise, she felt tears on her cheeks. But they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of relief. "I feel free," she whispered, and for the first time in months, she meant it. The aftermath of silence. The first 3 days were the hardest. Not because Zara missed Farhan, though there were moments when muscle memory reached for her phone to text him about something funny, only to remember there was nothing left to say, but because silence after years of noise feels like learning to breathe in a different atmosphere. Farhan had tried calling 17 times that first night. Then came the text. "Zara, what the hell? Call me back. This is ridiculous. You're overreacting. I can't believe you just walked out like that. We need to talk about this like adults." Each message revealed exactly what Zara already knew. He still didn't understand what he'd done wrong. In his mind, she was being dramatic, punishing him for being friendly. The word made her laugh bitterly each time she saw it appear in another message. By day 4, his tone shifted. "Baby, please. I'm sorry if I hurt you. I miss you. Can we just talk? I know I messed up. Just give me a chance to explain." Zara blocked his number on day 5. Not out of anger, but out of self-preservation. Every message was another hook trying to pull her back into a conversation that would inevitably end with her explaining why she deserved basic respect, and she was exhausted from teaching grown men how to value her. Hina had moved into Zara's apartment temporarily, bringing wine, trashy reality TV shows, and the kind of unflinching friendship that doesn't try to fix things with platitudes. "You know what I keep thinking about?" Zara said one evening, curled up on her couch with a mug of chamomile tea. "How many times I made excuses for him. Oh, he's just naturally charming. He doesn't mean anything by it. I'm probably being too sensitive. When did I become so small?" "You didn't become small," Hina replied, her voice fierce. "You loved someone who made you feel like you needed to shrink to keep him comfortable. That's on him, not you." Work became Zara's sanctuary. She threw herself into her projects with renewed focus, finding solace in the clean lines of design, the precision of color palettes, the satisfaction of creating spaces that felt both beautiful and intentional. Qualities she was now determined to cultivate in her own life. Her boss, Mrs. Qureshi, noticed the change immediately. "You seem different lately," she commented during a project review meeting. "More decisive." "I'm learning to trust my instincts," Zara replied, and it was true. Every design choice she'd second-guessed before, she now made with confidence. Every client meeting where she used to hedge her recommendations, she now presented with clear conviction. "Good," Mrs. Qureshi said with an approving nod, "because I'm putting you on the Riverview Medical Center project. It's our biggest contract this year, complete interior redesign of their new wing. You'll be working directly with their architect and project manager." Zara's heart raced with excitement. This was the kind of opportunity she'd been working toward for years. 2 weeks after the restaurant, Mira appeared at Zara's office. The receptionist buzzed through. "There's a young woman here asking for you. Says her name is Mira." Zara's stomach tightened, but she said, "Send her in." Mira entered looking nervous, clutching her purse like a lifeline. She was dressed in jeans and a simple sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders, so much younger without the restaurant uniform. "I hope it's okay that I came," Mira began, her words tumbling out quickly. "I got your work information from... Well, it doesn't matter how. I just needed to apologize." "You don't need to apologize," Zara said, gesturing for her to sit. "You didn't do anything wrong." "But I did," Mira insisted, perching on the edge of the chair. "I knew he was with you. I could see you sitting right there, and I let myself enjoy the attention. I told myself it was harmless, that I was just doing my job, but I knew better. And then when you asked me to give him that note, she stopped, her eyes welling up. I watched him read it. His face went completely white, and then he just sat there for like 20 minutes staring at it. And I realized I'd been part of hurting someone who seemed really kind. Zara studied the young woman before her. Seeing something of her younger self, the girl who thought male attention was flattering, who hadn't yet learned that not all attention is created equal. "Can I tell you something?" Zara said gently. "That night taught both of us something important. It taught me that I'm worth more than fighting for scraps of attention from someone who should be giving it freely. And maybe it taught you that being someone's escape from their relationship isn't the compliment it pretends to be." Mira nodded, wiping at her eyes. "He came back to the restaurant, 3 days later. Asked if I wanted to get coffee, and I told him I don't date customers, especially ones who treat their girlfriends like that." Mira managed a small smile. "Felt good to say no?" "Good," Zara said, surprised by the warmth she felt toward this girl. "You deserve someone who sees you when you're not serving them dinner. Someone whose attention doesn't come with betrayal as a side dish." They talked for another hour, about relationships, about self-worth, about the lies women tell themselves to excuse bad behavior from men who should know better. When Mira finally left, she hugged Zara tightly. "Thank you for not hating me," she whispered. "Thank you for reminding me that walking away was the right choice," Zara replied. That night, Farhan showed up at her apartment. Zara saw him through the peephole, disheveled, tired, desperate in a way that might have moved her a month ago. Now it just made her sad. She opened the door, but kept the chain lock engaged. "Zara, please, just hear me out." "There's nothing to hear, Farhan." "I was an idiot. I know that now. I took you for granted, and I'm sorry. Really, truly sorry." His voice cracked. "I love you. Doesn't that count for something?" Zara took a deep breath. "Love isn't just a feeling you have, Farhan. It's a choice you make every single day, and you stopped choosing me long before that dinner. You stopped seeing me, stopped prioritizing me, stopped making me feel like I mattered. And when I tried to tell you, you called me insecure. I was wrong. You were. But more importantly, I was wrong. I was wrong to keep accepting less than I deserved. I was wrong to think love meant tolerating disrespect. I was wrong to believe that if I just loved you hard enough, you'd eventually love me the same way back." Farhan pressed his forehead against the doorframe. "So that's it? 3 years and you're just done?" "I was done the moment you looked at someone else and forgot I was there," Zara said quietly. "I just finally caught up with the truth." She closed the door gently, and this time she didn't cry. She was too busy planning her future to mourn a past that had been dying for months. When real meets real, the Riverview Medical Center stood on the edge of the city like a promise being built from the ground up. Zara arrived for her first site meeting carrying her portfolio, her tablet, and a renewed sense of professional purpose that felt like armor made of confidence. The construction site hummed with activity, workers in hard hats, the distant sound of drilling, the sharp smell of fresh concrete mixing with sawdust. Zara checked in with the site supervisor, who directed her toward a temporary office trailer where the project team meetings were held. "You must be Zara Ahmed from Qureshi Design Studio," a warm voice said behind her. She turned to find a man in his mid-30s, dressed in practical work clothes but carrying himself with quiet authority. He had kind eyes that crinkled at the corners, silver threading through his dark hair at the temples, and an easy smile that didn't demand anything in return. "I'm Junaid Hassan, the project architect. Mrs. Qureshi speaks very highly of your work." His handshake was firm but not aggressive, professional but not cold. Zara found herself relaxing slightly. "I'm excited to be part of this project," she replied. "A medical center is a unique challenge, creating spaces that need to be functional and sterile, but also comforting and warm." "Exactly," Junaid said, his face lighting up with genuine enthusiasm. "That's exactly what we're trying to achieve. Come on, let me show you what we're working with." As they walked through the skeletal structure of the new wing, Junaid explained his vision with the kind of passion that comes from someone who truly cares about their work. He didn't talk over her or dismiss her questions. Instead, he listened carefully when she pointed out potential issues with his proposed lighting placement in the pediatric ward. "You're right," he said, pulling out his tablet to mark notes. "The natural light would be too intense during afternoon visits. We should shift those windows or add adjustable screening. I can't believe I missed that." "You've been focused on structural integrity," Zara said. "That's why projects need multiple perspectives." "Spoken like someone who understands collaboration," Junaid replied with an approving nod. Over the following weeks, Zara and Junaid fell into an easy working rhythm. They met twice weekly for progress reviews, and Zara found herself actually looking forward to these meetings, not with the nervous energy she used to feel trying to impress Farhan, but with the calm anticipation of engaging with someone who respected her expertise. Junaid asked for her opinion and actually listened to her answers. When they disagreed about design choices, he debated with logic and openness, willing to be convinced by better ideas regardless of whose they were. He remembered details she mentioned in passing, that she preferred morning meetings because her creativity peaked before noon, that she was mildly allergic to lilies so the bouquets contractors sent shouldn't include them, that she took her coffee with just a splash of milk. Small things, thoughtful things, the kind of attentiveness that Zara had forgotten could exist without strings attached. "You seem lighter lately," Hina observed during one of their evening catch-ups. "Work must be going well." "The project is incredible," Zara replied, carefully avoiding the real reason for her improved mood, but Hina knew her too well. "Or maybe the architect is incredible?" Zara felt her cheeks warm. "It's not like that. We're just colleagues." "Colleagues you mention at least 5 times per conversation," Hina teased gently. "It's okay to be interested, you know. You're allowed to move on." "I'm not ready," Zara said automatically, then paused. "Am I? It's only been 2 months since Farhan." "There's no timeline for healing," Hina replied. "But there's also no rule that says you have to close yourself off to good people just because someone else was terrible. Junaid sounds like he treats you with basic human decency and respect. That's not a relationship, that's just how people should behave. If it feels remarkable, that says more about what you got used to tolerating than about him being special." The words settled into Zara's thoughts and stayed there. The breakthrough came during a site visit 6 weeks into the project. Zara and Junaid were reviewing the reception area design when a steel beam being hoisted by crane suddenly lurched, its safety cables snapping with a sound like a gunshot. Everything happened in slow motion. Zara stood frozen as the beam swung toward them. Junaid's arm wrapped around her waist, pulling her backward with enough force that they both stumbled into the wall of the unfinished corridor. The beam crashed into the space where she'd been standing seconds before, sending up clouds of dust and debris. For a moment, they just stood there, Junaid's arm still around her, her hands clutching his shirt, both of them breathing hard from adrenaline and shock. "Are you hurt?" Junaid asked, his voice urgent as he gently checked her for injuries. "No, I'm fine. You pulled me back just in time." Zara realized she was shaking. "Thank you. You just—" "Thank you." "Of course," he said, but he didn't let go immediately, and neither did she. Their eyes met, and Zara saw something there that made her breath catch, not the hungry, wandering attention Farhan used to give other women, but something steady and real. The look of someone who saw her, truly saw her, and liked what he found. "We should probably check in with the site supervisor," Junaid said finally, reluctantly stepping back. "Make sure no one else was in the danger zone." "Right. Yes, of course." But as they walked toward the supervisor's office, Zara felt Junaid's hand brush against hers, tentative, questioning, and before she could overthink it, she laced her fingers through his. He glanced down at their joined hands, then up at her face, a question in his eyes. "Is this okay?" he asked quietly. "I don't want to assume—" "It's okay," Zara replied, surprising herself with how much she meant it. "More than okay." Later that evening, after the accident had been reviewed and safety protocols reinforced, Junaid asked if she wanted to grab dinner. "Nothing fancy," he added quickly. "Just food." and maybe a chance to decompress after almost being crushed by construction equipment. Zara laughed, and it felt good. That sounds perfect. They went to a small cafe that specialized in traditional home-style cooking, the kind of place with mismatched chairs and handwritten menus and absolutely no pretension. It was the opposite of the restaurant where Farhan had stopped seeing her. "Can I be honest about something?" Junaid said after they'd ordered. "I've been wanting to ask you to dinner for weeks, but I wasn't sure if it would be appropriate. Mrs. Qureshi mentioned you'd recently ended a relationship." "She did?" Zara felt a flutter of embarrassment, only because she was explaining why you seemed quieter than usual at first. "She's protective of you, said you're one of her best designers, and she didn't want the project stress to overwhelm you during a difficult time." Junaid stirred sugar into his tea thoughtfully. "I'm divorced. 2 years now. My ex-wife and I wanted different things, and we finally admitted we were making each other miserable trying to force compatibility that wasn't there." "I'm sorry," Zara said. "Don't be. It was the right decision for both of us. We're actually friends now, which wouldn't have been possible if we'd kept pretending." He looked at her directly. "What I'm trying to say is I understand if you're not ready. And I don't want to be the rebound guy or the distraction or whatever comes after something painful. But I also don't want to miss the chance to know you better because my timing isn't perfect." Zara set down her cup, considering her words carefully. "My last relationship ended because he stopped seeing me. He was always looking at someone else, something else, somewhere else. And I spent so much energy trying to be enough that I forgot I already was enough." "You are," Junaid said simply. "Enough, more than enough. That's not flattery, it's observation. You're brilliant at your work. You're thoughtful about details most people miss, and you have this quiet strength that's—" He paused, searching for words. "You don't need anyone to complete you. You're already complete. I'd just like to be someone who appreciates that. If you'll let me." Zara felt something shift in her chest. Not the desperate, anxious flutter of trying to earn someone's attention, but the calm, steady warmth of being offered something real. "I'd like that too," she said. And for the first time in years, she meant it without reservations. The love she deserved, all along. 6 months after the restaurant, Zara stood in her newly decorated apartment, a space she'd completely redesigned to reflect who she was becoming rather than who she'd been. Gone were the compromises she'd made for Farhan's taste, replaced with colors and textures that spoke to her actual preferences, deep teals and warm terracottas, plants cascading from floating shelves, art from local galleries instead of mass-produced prints. Her portfolio had expanded dramatically. The Riverview Medical Center project had led to 3 more contracts, and Mrs. Qureshi had just offered her a junior partnership in the firm. Zara Ahmed was becoming a name people knew, a designer whose work reflected both creativity and emotional intelligence. But the biggest change wasn't visible in her apartment or her career. It was in how she carried herself. The constant second-guessing had evaporated. The anxiety about whether she was enough had dissolved. She'd learned the difference between being loved and being seen, and she'd stopped accepting anything less than both. Junaid had become a steady presence in her life, though they'd taken things slowly. Dinner once a week evolved into weekend coffee dates, which evolved into long conversations about architecture and design and what they wanted from life. He'd met Hina, who'd given Zara an enthusiastic thumbs up when he wasn't looking. She'd met his daughter from his previous marriage, a bright 12-year-old named Amal who loved sketching buildings and asked Zara endless questions about color theory. "I like her," Amal had whispered to her father after their first meeting. "She talks to me like I'm a real person." What Zara appreciated most about Junaid was his consistency. He didn't have good days and bad days, didn't withdraw his affection when he was stressed, didn't make her guess where she stood. When he said he'd call, he called. When he made plans, he kept them. When she accomplished something at work, he celebrated genuinely rather than treating it as competition. "Is this what healthy feels like?" she'd asked Hina one evening. "Because I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop." That's trauma talking. Hina replied gently. When you're used to chaos, stability feels suspicious. But no, healthy doesn't drop shoes. Healthy is when someone's worst day doesn't become your emotional crisis. When disagreements don't threaten the whole relationship. When you can be fully yourself without performing or shrinking. Spring arrived with unexpected warmth. Zara was working late at her home office when her doorbell rang. Through the peephole, she saw Farhan. Her stomach didn't drop. Her heart didn't race. She felt only a distant curiosity about what he could possibly want after 6 months of silence. She opened the door without removing the chain lock. Zara. He looked older somehow, tired in a way that went beyond physical exhaustion. I know I have no right to be here. You don't, she agreed calmly. I needed you to know that you were right about everything. He ran a hand through his hair, a gesture she used to find endearing that now just seemed like performance. I've been in therapy, working through why I sabotaged the best thing that ever happened to me. And my therapist asked me to make amends with people I've hurt. I'm not a step in your recovery program, Farhan. I know. That's not why I'm here. He took a shaky breath. I'm here because I finally understand what I lost. Not just a girlfriend, but someone who loved me completely, who saw my flaws and loved me anyway, who supported every dream I had, who made me better just by being herself. And I threw it away because I was too immature and insecure to appreciate what real love looks like. Zara felt a pang of sympathy, but it was the kind you feel for a stranger struggling with burdens that are no longer yours to carry. I appreciate you telling me that, she said, and I hope therapy helps you become the person you want to be. But I need you to understand something. I don't forgive you because you apologized. I released you from my life because staying angry was taking up space I needed for growing. Are you seeing someone? The question came out strangled. That's not your business anymore. He nodded, accepting the boundary. You look happy. Really happy. I'm glad. After he left, Zara stood at her window watching him walk back to his car. She felt no triumph, no vindication, no lingering bitterness. Just closure and the quiet satisfaction of knowing she'd made the right choice. Her phone buzzed with a text from Junaid. Still working late? I'm making dinner at my place, nothing fancy, just pasta. Amal wants to show you the building she designed for her school project. No pressure if you're busy. Zara smiled and typed back, I'll be there in 30 minutes. Need me to bring anything? Just yourself. That's always been enough. 3 simple words that meant everything. That's always been enough. As Zara grabbed her jacket and keys, she caught sight of her reflection in the hallway mirror. She looked like herself again, not the diminished version trying to earn crumbs of attention, but the whole, complete woman who'd been there all along, just waiting to be remembered. The drive to Junaid's house took her past Lotus Restaurant. She glanced at it through her car window, and instead of pain, she felt gratitude. That dinner had been the ending she didn't know she needed, the moment that forced her to choose herself over the comfortable illusion of a relationship that had stopped nourishing either of them. Junaid opened his door, with flour on his cheek and that easy smile she'd come to treasure. Amal bounced excitedly in the background, waving a poster board covered in architectural sketches. You came, Amal exclaimed. Dad said you might be too busy, but I knew you'd want to see my hospital design. I used the color theory you taught me, see? Calming blues in the patient rooms, energizing yellows in the therapy spaces. It's brilliant, Zara said, genuinely impressed as she examined the 12-year-old's work. Have you thought about what kind of art you'd put in the waiting rooms? As Amal launched into enthusiastic explanations, Junaid caught Zara's eye and mouthed, Thank you. She nodded, understanding what he meant. Thank you for being patient with my daughter. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for being exactly who you are. During dinner, Amal chattered about school while Junaid occasionally added dry commentary that made Zara laugh. No one was performing. No one was checking their phone. No one's eyes wandered toward someone else. They were just 3 people sharing a meal, and it was enough, more than enough. It was everything. Later, after Amal had gone to bed and Zara and Junaid sat on his balcony with tea, he turned to her with unusual seriousness. I need to tell you something, he began, I'm falling in love with you. I've probably been falling for a while now, but I wanted to be sure before I said anything. And I am sure. He took her hand gently. I know you've been hurt, and I know trust takes time to rebuild, so I'm not asking for anything you're not ready to give. I just needed you to know where I stand. Zara's heart filled with something she'd thought she'd lost forever. The ability to be vulnerable without fear, to be loved without conditions. I'm falling too, she admitted. And it terrifies me because last time I fell, I hit the ground pretty hard. Then we'll fall slowly, Junaid said. No rush, no pressure. Just two people who see each other clearly and choose to stay. Every single day. Every single day, Zara echoed. And she knew she meant it. 3 months later, Zara received an invitation to her university reunion. Scanning the attendee list, she saw Farhan's name and felt nothing but mild curiosity about whether he'd actually show up. She went with Junaid, who looked genuinely excited to meet her old classmates and see the campus where she'd studied. Farhan was there, accompanied by a young woman who looked vaguely uncomfortable with the attention he kept trying to draw toward them. When he spotted Zara, his face went through several emotions before settling on resignation. Zara, he said when their paths inevitably crossed near the refreshment table. You look amazing. Thank you, she replied easily, then turned to Junaid. This is Junaid Hassan. Junaid, this is Farhan Sheikh. We used to date. Good to meet you, Junaid said politely, his hand resting comfortably at the small of Zara's back. Farhan's eyes took in that casual touch, the ease between them, the way Zara leaned slightly into Junaid's presence. So you're together now? We are, Zara confirmed. Farhan, this is... She gestured to his companion. Natasha, the young woman supplied, shaking Zara's hand with visible relief at being acknowledged. They made polite small talk for exactly the appropriate amount of time before Zara excused them to mingle elsewhere. As they walked away, she heard Natasha ask Farhan, Is that your ex? She seems really nice. Farhan's response was lost in the crowd noise, but Zara didn't strain to hear it. His opinions about her no longer mattered. His regrets, his growth, his journey. None of it was her concern anymore. You handled that gracefully, Junaid observed. I don't feel anything, Zara said, surprised by her own honesty. Not anger, not satisfaction, not even curiosity about whether he's changed. I just feel free. That's because you did the work, Junaid replied. You healed, you grew. You chose yourself when it would have been easier to accept less. That kind of strength changes everything. Later that night, lying in bed scrolling through photos from the reunion, Zara paused on one of herself and Junaid, laughing at something Heine had said. They looked happy, not the performative happiness of people trying to convince others their relationship was perfect, but the genuine,